Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we are taking a look at a standard issue LAPD detective pistol. This is a Pfläger-Katsumata Series D. Normally, with a gun like this, I'd like to tell you a whole bunch of cool, fun sci-fi lore about it, but I just can't. So this is, in fact, a fully functional clone of Deckard's pistol from the classic movie Blade Runner. And usually with really cool sci-fi like Blade Runner, we have all sorts of fan fiction lore that's been built up over the years, describing all sorts of detailed histories about everything that was involved in the movie. And we saw that, for example, I did some coverage of some guns from Halo, some guns from the Fallout series of video games. If you look at Star Wars, there is an incredible amount of backstory lore on a lot of the weapons that are in Star Wars. But here, we just don't really have anything. In fact, that name, Pfläger-Katsumata Series D, is only one of several names that are put forth. None of them are really substantiated in anything official. And that one was created specifically so that it would have the initials PKD in honor of Phillip K. Dick, who wrote the novel that Blade Runner the movie is based on. So what I have here, it's actually really cool. It is a prop recreation that was made in 1998, and that's before the original prop came to light. So after the film was made in, I believe, 1982, it wasn't a big hit. It wasn't very successful. The main prop gun, and there was only ever one of them made for the film, it disappeared somewhere. And it didn't actually show up until 2006 when it showed up at a science fiction convention. And it's come into the public light since, and there's lots of pictures, and Adam Savage has a video out where he takes a look at it in the ownership of its current owner, a guy named Dan Lanigan. But before any of that happened, a guy named Phil Steinschneider started digging into it. He was a gun guy who was also a movie prop guy and was really into trying to figure out what this thing was. And he did some digging and he figured out that the original prop from the movie was manufactured from actually two separate real guns. It was made from a Steyr bolt-action rifle and a Charter Arms 44 Special revolver. So he made a pair, I believe, of fully functional reproductions, and I wanted to dig into this one a little bit more and show you guys how it was actually made. Well, there it is in all of its glory. We've got the twin triggers, we've got the distinctive sort of reddish-orange translucent grips, we've got the bolt-action rifle bolt coming down on the side. There is actually a Steyr bolt-action rifle magazine, or part of one, in the front of the gun. Now, the way this was actually produced for the film is they started with a real gun. They started with a Charter Arms 44 Special Caliber Police Bulldog, and we still have access to that. There's a cylinder release latch right there. You can open up the cylinder. You've got a 5-shot cylinder. The barrel is completely intact. We'll take some of the extra stuff off of this gun so you can see what it looks like underneath. But in order to make this usable for firing blanks on set, it was just based on a real gun. Now, ejection is a little wonky here. You can see you can only push the ejector star out about that far. Well, it's limited here. But you're also going to have issues with some of the cases getting interfered with the grips. So this is not exactly a gun you're going to quickly reload. You're not going to be reloading this on camera at all because, well, it's not meant to be a revolver in the movie, I don't think. The other half of the gun is this guy, which is the receiver for a Steyr Model SL bolt-action rifle. And it, in fact, has a bolt-action bolt. Now, the front of the bolt has been replaced with just a dummy piece, but back here we've got what were originally locking lugs from the Steyr SL. And in fact, the double triggers come from the Steyr SLs. A bunch of them had double set triggers. And then this front plastic section is the magazine well from the Steyr rifle. We have what was originally its magazine. Again, 222 Remington caliber was the original prop that was used. So this is about the right length of magazine. This has been replaced by, there's a battery and a little bit of electronics and a couple of lights. There were, on the original gun, there were a couple of red and a couple of green LEDs. Now on this one, those don't actually function, but that's what was actually in here. So let's start digging into removing some of the bits here. Oh, by the way, if you're going to actually fire it, the rear trigger is functional. You can see the bobbed hammer right back there from the original Charter Arms revolver. The front trigger is nothing. It's just a trigger pinned in place with a return spring, and it doesn't do anything. All right, I'm going to start by taking off the base of the grip here. Now, allegedly, the base here is rounded down because Harrison Ford's hand was apparently too big to effectively fit the original grip with this thing flat. So they carved it down to fit his hand better. This is, by the way, a quite heavy gun because it's got a lot of stuff on it. So a lot of Allen head screws holding this thing together. We'll take those off, and then these two out. There we go. So there's our polymer grip panel or acrylic. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly what they made those out of. But underneath, you can very clearly see the original spacing of the Charter Arms revolver grip there. Next up, I'm going to take out this screw up front. I have this nice and loose here for disassembly. Right, and then I'm also going to take out this cross screw right here. All right, with that out, let's see if we can take that screw out. We've just got a spacer plug right there for the front. And then with this screw coming out, that one's a little smaller. So this piece on the side is a custom casting to make the gun look like the style of prop that they wanted. There we go. All right, so we're going to fold down the magazine well there. That allows me to pull this piece off. That's just a molded component. This is I think this is a copy, but originally this was a radio wire connection from a World War II field radio. And then there's some argument over the actual correct screw here, either being just a screw or being the windage knob off of an old Weaver scope. And you usually see that with a Weaver scope windage knob, but in this case, they've gone with a flat screw. All right, now you can see even more of the original Charter revolver. They cut off the original trigger guard. This has been added in. Again, that's just a dummy trigger to make it resemble the double trigger setup from the Steyr rifles. Right. Next up, we have this plug in the top of the bolt-action rifle receiver. It's just there to make this look like a more complete gun. All right, if I take that screw out, there you go. This is just a plug to fit in the top of that receiver. You can see the receiver here is still threaded because they took the barrel out. There are then two screws here and one screw back here that hold the receiver in place on the top of the revolver. If we take those two screws out, we can then just lift the Steyr receiver off the top of the action. So there are markings on here: Steyr Daimler Push, AB Steyr, Mannlicher Model SL, that's the original rifle. And then we have made in Austria, and we have the serial number and the original proof marks. By the way, one little gripe I have with some of the fan fiction community about Blade Runner is they took a look at the serial number from the original movie prop pistol, which is, I believe, 5223, and they made that the model number of the gun. And when there was a new gun used in Blade Runner 2049, they gave it a designation based on its serial number as well. And that's dumb, guys. This is a serial number, and it should just remain a serial number in the science fiction theoretical sense of whatever this what this gun was supposed to be as a fictional prop. So don't use serial numbers as model numbers. Come on, you should know better. Anyway, now we are basically down to the original Charter Arms revolver. So you can see that not much has changed here. I've left these pieces on just because it's a bit simpler. We don't need to take everything apart. But that is how you get a fully functioning prop gun that looks like a cool sci-fi pistol. And there you go. There is Deckard's pistol from Blade Runner, all disassembled. Do note that for purposes of assembling the prop together, this is essentially a bit of threaded plug that has been drilled into the barrel and then I think welded or soldered in place. These are just slight holes made in the barrel. None of these actually impact the structural integrity of the barrel, and this remains totally shootable. So I come at this from a firearms perspective instead of from a sci-fi or a movie or a cosplay or a prop perspective. But to me, it's kind of weird how much it seems like the movie prop reproduction industry eschews the use of the real guns that were used to make the real original props in a lot of these cases. This was a fully functioning firearm in the film because that dramatically simplified being able to use blank cartridges in it. And there's a lot of movie guns that are based on real functional actual guns for that reason. And it seems like a lot of the people who are building props of this, at least from the bit of searching I did prior to filming this video, a lot of these people are looking at, like, how do they construct the gun without using the real guns? To me, that's a bit weird. I get that there are some restrictions on firearms, I guess, in a lot of convention sort of scenarios, but all right, I'd like to give a big thanks to Phil for loaning me his copy of Deckard's pistol from Blade Runner. It's super cool to have this be fully functional. Now, I know some of you guys are going to want me to go out and shoot it. I'm not going to, just because I'm paranoid about breaking anything in it. And frankly, I was looking at taking it to something like a bug match, which would be really cool, except there are no sights on the gun. And like, yeah, I don't think it'd really do it any justice to try and use it in an actual shooting competition. It's essentially limited to 5 rounds. There's no sights. And I don't want to damage the thing. So I hope you'll forgive me for not taking this out to shoot it. But hopefully you did enjoy getting to take a look at it and how it was put together, because I think there are a lot of movie props that are based on this sort of construction, the use of a real underlying firearm in order to make the gun readily usable with blanks for purposes of filming, and then a bunch of extra stuff on top of it. Anyway, thanks for watching.